Your bank statement is sitting there right now. Quiet, boring, just numbers and dates and merchant names. But it knows things about you that you have never said out loud. It knows what you actually value, not what you tell people you value, what you actually do with money when no one is watching. And here is the strangest part. Most people have never really read it. Hi, I'm Dave. I studied the psychology of money and financial behavior, and for years I have been obsessed with one question. Why do smart people make dumb financial decisions? What I found was not what I expected. The answer is not math. It is not willpower. It is identity. And your bank statement is the clearest mirror of your identity that exists. Every transaction is a vote for who you are or a vote for who you wish you were not. You think you are the kind of person who does not waste money, but your bank statement has been quietly tracking every single moment you said one thing and did another, and it has receipts. Let us start with something behavioral economist Dan Ariely calls the gap between declared preferences and revealed preferences. Declared preferences are what you say you want. Revealed preferences are what your spending proves you want. The gap between those two things is one of the most uncomfortable spaces a human being can inhabit, and most of us live there permanently. You say you want to travel, but the last 12 months of your bank statement shows 18 streaming subscriptions and 0 flights booked. You say you want to get fit, but you have a gym membership that's been charging you $47 a month for 11 months without a single visit. The gym knows, your bank knows, and now, quietly, you know too. This is not about judgment, it's about information. In 2018, researchers at the University of Warwick published a study analyzing the spending data of over 2 million people. They found that spending patterns were more predictive of personality traits than self-reported surveys. More predictive, meaning your bank statement knows you better than you know yourself. What did they find? People who scored high on conscientiousness spent more on insurance, home maintenance, and retirement accounts. People high in openness spent more on travel, books, and art. Neurotic individuals spent more on comfort purchases, fast food, and impulse buys during stressful periods. The data was so precise that researchers could identify a personality shift just by looking at a change in spending categories over time. You are not hiding from your bank statement. Your bank statement is reading you. Now let's go deeper, because the transactions on your statement are not random. They follow a pattern, and that pattern reveals something called your money script, a term coined by financial therapist Brad Klontz, one of the most important researchers in the field of financial psychology. A money script is an unconscious belief about money that was formed in childhood, before you had any real understanding of economics, before you understood what a dollar actually meant. You watched your parents. You felt the tension in the house when bills arrived. You absorbed the message that money was scarce, or abundant, or dangerous, or the only measure of success, and that message became a script you've been running ever since. Klontz identified 4 core money scripts: money avoidance, money worship, money status, and money vigilance. And here's what's remarkable. Each one leaves a distinct fingerprint on your bank statement. Money avoidance looks like sabotage. You get a bonus and spend it before the month is over. You leave money in a low-interest account for years rather than investing it because investing feels dangerous. You unconsciously resist accumulating wealth because somewhere deep inside, you believe that money corrupts people, or that you don't deserve it, or wanting it makes you greedy. Money worship says that more money will finally fix everything. Your statement shows a pattern of lifestyle inflation. Every raise becomes a slightly bigger car, a slightly bigger apartment, slightly more expensive dinners. The savings number barely moves, because money worship is a belief that the next level will bring peace, and it never does. Money status turns spending into signaling. Your statement has a disproportionate amount of visible brand name and social spending: the shoes, the restaurant that appears on social media, the hotel that impresses people who will never know what your bank account looks like the week after. Klontz found that money status was particularly associated with overspending and financial fragility because it ties spending to self-worth. Money vigilance is the one that sounds like a virtue, and mostly it is. Vigilant spenders save. they plan, they don't overspend on status. But vigilance taken too far becomes scarcity thinking. It looks like refusing to spend even when spending would genuinely improve quality of life. It looks like anxiety every time a number goes down, even temporarily. It looks like stockpiling money not because of a goal, but because money feels like the only safe thing in an unsafe world. Which one are you? You don't have to guess, you just have to look. Scroll through the last 3 months of your statement and ask yourself, where does money leave my life before I've made a conscious choice to send it there? That's your script in action. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting, because your bank statement doesn't just reveal your psychology, it reveals your social world. Sociologist Charles Kadushin spent decades studying social networks and how money moves through them. And what he found is that people unconsciously calibrate their spending to match the perceived norms of their reference group, the people they spend the most time around. Not the people they aspire to be, the people they actually see every day. This means your bank statement is partly a map of your social environment. If your closest friends eat out 4 times a week, you likely eat out 4 times a week. If your social circle normalizes expensive vacations, you feel behind if you don't take one. If everyone around you leases a new car every 3 years, a paid-off used car starts to feel like a failure, even if it's mathematically brilliant. Economist Robert Frank calls this expenditure cascade. The wealthy spend more, that shifts what counts as normal for the people just below them, which shifts what counts as normal for the people just below that, all the way down. And at every level, people are spending not on what they truly need, but on what the level above them has made seem necessary. Your bank statement is the record of every moment you participated in that cascade, consciously or not. But here's the turn, because this is not all bad news, and this is the part that most financial content completely misses. The bank statement is not just a mirror, it's a compass, and if you know how to read it, it becomes one of the most powerful tools for deliberate change that exists. Researcher Hal Hershfield at UCLA has spent years studying what he calls future self-continuity, the psychological connection you feel to the person you'll be in 10, 20, 30 years from now. His research found that people who feel a strong connection to their future self make dramatically better financial decisions. They save more, they invest more consistently, they delay gratification more easily. Not because they're more disciplined, because saving doesn't feel like sacrifice. It feels like generosity towards someone they actually care about. Here's what Hershfield also found, that future self-continuity can be trained. You can strengthen the connection. And one of the most powerful ways to do it is to make your financial behavior visible, to stop letting money move in the shadows. Reading your bank statement with intention is an act of radical self-awareness. You are forcing a confrontation between who you say you are and what you actually do when no one is watching. And that confrontation, uncomfortable as it is where real change begins. So here's a framework for actually reading your statement differently, not as an accountant, as a psychologist. Category 1, automatic charges. These are the expenses that leave your account before you even remember agreeing to them. Subscriptions, memberships, apps, insurance policies, old trials you forgot to cancel. Most people, when they audit this category seriously for the first time, find between $200 and $500 a month in spending they had completely stopped thinking about. This is not carelessness, it's a design feature. These services are built to disappear into the background of your financial life. Your job is to drag them back into the light. Category 2, frequency spending. Not how much a single purchase costs, how often a category appears. Coffee shops, fast food, ride shares, convenience stores. The individual transactions seem trivial. That's exactly why they accumulate invisibly. A $6 coffee 3 times a week is over $900 a year. That number won't shock you, but add it to the $12 in lunch delivery 4 times a week, add the ride shares when you could have walked, add the convenience store runs, and suddenly you're looking at several $1,000s a year in spending that felt like nothing while it was happening. Category 3, emotional timing. This one requires a different kind of attention. Look at your spending not just by category, but by date. What happens to your bank statement after a bad day at work? What happens after a fight with someone you love? What happens on Sunday evenings? What happens at the end of a long, stressful week?
Psychologist Celine Malcock at Ohio State found that stress spending is remarkably predictable and patterned. People develop specific categories they default to when they're emotionally depleted. Identifying your emotional spending trigger is not about eliminating the spending. It's about breaking the unconscious link between the feeling and the transaction. The moment you see the pattern, you have a choice. Before that moment, you don't. Category 4, aspirational spending. This is the most revealing category of all. These are the purchases that represent who you want to be but are not yet. The cookbooks you never opened, the guitar that lives in the corner, the language learning subscription you opened twice, the gym gear you bought with every intention of using. This category is not failure. It's a map of unlived possibility. It tells you where your energy wants to go, if only you would let it. The question is whether those aspirations are still alive, or whether you've outgrown them and are simply maintaining a monument to a version of yourself that no longer fits.
Now look at all 4 categories together and ask one question. If you showed this statement to someone who did not know you, what would they conclude about what you value? Then ask, is that the person you want to be? Because here is the truth that neuroscientist Antonio Damasio spent decades uncovering. Every decision you make is connected to emotion before it reaches conscious reasoning. You do not think first and then feel. You feel first, and your thinking constructs a story around it. This means that financial behavior is not primarily a rational act, it is an emotional one. And emotional patterns do not change through information alone. They change through identity. The most important financial question is not how much do you make. It is not even how much do you save. It is who do you believe you are when it comes to money? Because your bank statement will always, without exception, reflect that belief back at you. If you believe you are someone who never gets ahead, you will unconsciously spend in ways that confirm that belief. If you believe money always runs out, you will find ways to make it run out. If you believe wealthy people are different from you in some fundamental way, you will resist the behaviors that would make you more like them, not because of logic, because the brain is a story-protecting machine, and it will spend your money to protect its story about who you are. The researcher Carol Dweck showed us that a fixed mindset, the belief that traits are permanent, produces dramatically different outcomes than a growth mindset. And this applies directly to money. A fixed money mindset says, I am just not good with money. A growth money mindset says, I have been operating on a money script I never chose, and I can choose differently. Your bank statement is not a verdict. It is data, and data can change. So, here's where we end. Right back where we started. Your bank statement is sitting there right now. Quiet, boring, just numbers and dates and merchant names. But you know now that it is not quiet at all. It has been speaking this whole time, in the language of your deepest beliefs about yourself, in the pattern of your emotional habits, in the gap between who you say you are and who you actually are when no one is watching. The question is not whether your bank statement knows your secrets. It does. The question is whether you are finally ready to listen to what it has been trying to tell you. Because the moment you truly read it is the moment you stop being defined by it.